All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Karen Blum. I'm a freelance writer in Baltimore, and I am head of ASJA's Virtual Education Committee. Welcome to today's continuing education webinar, How to Use LinkedIn so that your next client or job finds you. Our guest speaker today is our own ASJA member, Jennifer Riggins. Jennifer is joining us from London today, so I appreciate everyone's flexibility in finding a mutually agreeable time across the time zones. She is a culture side of tech storyteller, journalist, writer, and event and podcast host who shares stories where culture and technology collide. Her full bio is on the ASJA site as part of the advertisement for this program. And again, per Jennifer's request, if you'd like to add your LinkedIn profile into the chat so we can connect with each other, feel free to do that, but put your questions in the Q&A box. And Jennifer, we will let you get started.
Okay, so although I'm hosting, I will go on off mute because, of course, day 3 of a cold, it started a bit of coughing. I apologize in advance for my voice, but that is how it works. So thank you to everyone for sharing, for those that are coming on now, for sharing your LinkedIn URL in the chat. The idea is that y'all all connect with each other. The point being, well, you'll learn the point of this as we discuss. So I'm going to share my screen, and just to make sure you all can see it, right? I'm not going to do viewer mode because then I'll lose the ability to see any information on Zoom, which includes if any chats or questions come. So I don't want to move that. So I'm going to put it in this mode. Zoom's a bit finicky. So the idea of this is, just as a journalist myself, and I'm sure you find this, there are 2 ways people find me. Number 1 is my byline. Your byline is sacred. Never forget that. Take advantage of it. And the rest is on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a dumb algorithm, which is something you're going to hear throughout. Can anyone answer, why are you on LinkedIn? Or not? For I know at least one member is not on LinkedIn yet, but maybe you should create one while we're on the call so you can connect with a bunch of people right now and say, hey, I'm the person with no connection, so everyone gives you connections, because I think that would be a good idea. To the person that said they're not on LinkedIn yet, I would recommend you're on LinkedIn. So we've got Tina says, I'm on LinkedIn because my clients are. Stacy said she's gotten LinkedIn work over the years. Debbie said it's the best way to connect with a wide variety of people on LinkedIn to have a professional network. Absolutely. All of these are excellent ways to be on LinkedIn. It's, I guess, Rolodex. Not that my generation really had a Rolodex, but it's like a concept we kind of know about. But it is one of those things. So for me, first of all, if you're applying for a more traditional job role, which is totally fine, or even freelance, sometimes they ask you to fill out an application. It feels very weird, but more than half of the time it's through LinkedIn. So it is your CV or resume, and it is your references, which we will talk about, are super important. This is, Joanna brought up a really great reason for LinkedIn. I saw the other day in our Facebook community for the ASJA that someone said, how do you find sources, especially because Harrow, Help a Reporter Out, just shut down, which was shocking, or was shut down, you should say, didn't shut down itself almost. But, and as Joanna said, she uses it to contact sources and share articles and to thank people. These are all very good. And you get assignments and referrals. Okay. So yeah, we'll get down that Harrow rabbit hole later, but this idea is, it's a wonderful way to make sources. Again, what I'm about to explain is what if you have the freemium LinkedIn. Hopefully we all get accepted back into the LinkedIn for journalists. It has a sliding scale, but it seems like you can be on it for a year and then it's 6 months to a year off of it while you wait for your referral again. So I do find it interesting to reach out to people with a note for sources, but I just don't think it's necessary. So everything I'm going to talk about is the free LinkedIn. it's not just this idea of references and your resume, it's also your cover letter and your personality. And again, it's the most convenient way to consolidate a professional network. And also to help your friends find jobs and to help connect people. It's probably my secret talent is connecting people. And I think it's a valuable one that's very fulfilling. So definitely like, oh, I do know someone that works at that company in this area. Let me introduce them before you apply for the job there because maybe they have a referral program, win-win. So LinkedIn's your brand. Honestly, I don't know that you need a website or blog. I find these get outdated very quickly. And you could just do it on your LinkedIn, plus, of course, author pages, author bio pages on websites. You can steer your brand. So this is a bit of an outdated slide in the background picture, but it's totally fine. I was an English teacher in Spain, which is what you do when you're an illegal immigrant living somewhere. You teach English in Spain. That's how it works. And for years, but it turned out I kind of had a niche where I was teaching a lot of recruitment companies and very high level business. So in that way, I really was a career coach because a lot of people that are learning English in Spain, newsflash, are trying to get ready for their next job or job interview. And I was a sales coach. So I spun it differently because that's what I was doing, which led to more of the same clients. So similarly, you can do that in many ways. It's not 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, it's 2 degrees to your next client. So the next 2 slides are really important. So why am I asking us all? If you're just joining, welcome. We're asking everyone that wants to share your LinkedIn URL in the chat. This will not be published anywhere, but we're then encouraging everyone to click on those URLs and hit connect with people. Because, and I do mean connect, and we'll talk about that again soon, not follow. You will be following anyone you connect with, unless you've set up your situations differently, but connections are what's important. So how do people find you? How the LinkedIn search works is, it is a manageable algorithm. It is not Google that has 200 plus main points of algorithm plus all the others. Instead, the LinkedIn algorithm is a mix of your connections, your secondary connections, which can be anyone in the same group as you. Yes, groups are cesspools of self-promotion. You don't need to be active in them. You just need to exist in them. Anyone who's worked at the same company as you, anyone who's went to the same school as you, who has taken the same Coursera course, for example, as you. All of these are people that you are secondarily connected to. When you connect with me, you're connected to 15,000 more people secondarily because of my connections on LinkedIn. So the idea is you want to have a good number of connections in general, probably not in the lead gen space because that gets a bit, it's LinkedIn. So I wouldn't accept all connections, but I would accept the vast majority of them. And then the other reason is your keywords. So what are you ranking for? So there's very specific ways to do the keywords throughout and make sure there could be more than one job title you have, especially as a journalist. You usually wear many hats. You may be an editor. You may be a feature writer and a news writer or a profiler or whatever your niche is as a writer or journalist. There will be different ways. So LinkedIn falls around Google, I would say 2000, I think it's 2003 I've been saying, or 2013, I forget at this point. But when websites used to rank because they would have just a repetition of certain words, that is part of it. But you have to do it in a certain way. So LinkedIn isn't great at punctuation. So with that in mind, if you have an accent in your name, it doesn't render great on like mobile and stuff. I would always be true to your name, but I would also make sure to write it without an accent. My partner's surname is Gonzalez, which does have an accent on the A, but they also have it written in their profile without the A as well, because it may not recognize that. It doesn't recognize punctuation besides periods and commas really well. It doesn't, if you see this example on the left, it understands that HR means human resources, but there are very few other acronyms it understands. So try to find ways to explain it and be redundant if you have a niche that involves an acronym or something. So, and then this is just, this pipe is quite trendy. You could do commas, you could do slashes, however you want to do. The same for when you're listing your different job titles or your different headline. I mean, I love people's dogs, and I think we need more of that on LinkedIn. I don't think it should be on your LinkedIn headshot. I think you should make it yourself. I hate to say it, I think you should be smiling. You want people to work with you, things like that. I'm not saying it's the most inclusive thing. It's just how to play the game. Write your full name and other names somewhere else in the profile. If you, there is a way to do maiden names if you've changed your name, stuff like that. I have a friend, Kate, whose real name is Kathleen, but everyone knows her as Kate, and Kathleen, Kate is not a typical diminutive. Same with someone named Bex, whose real name is Rebecca. There will be my brother-in-law is Javi, but his name is technically Francisco Javier. So he needs to have all these different names in there. The different ways you spell it with or without accents, do it because you want people to find you. So that's an easy one. Your headline. So the majority of people since COVID have been looking on your LinkedIn from their computers, not their phones. So when we're talking about the headlines, you can go up to, I believe it was last checked, 160 characters, but make sure you front load those 80 because that's all that's going to show on the phone, 60 to 80. So, and we'll talk later, but I'm going to highly recommend you use your phone for a lot of the activities because it's much easier and straightforward. So you want to front load the most important titles you have, but if you have multiple title, more than that, you can add more, just front load it. Have your, not your current job title, but your brands. I don't believe your headline should be such an, I do this at this company, unless you're at like FANG or like there's probably 100 companies you should, or if you are a founder of a real company, not you're trying to brand yourself as a company. I don't really know why people put so much effort into that. Just have a network and be like, I can't do it, my network can. It's all about the network. That's what ASJA is too. This is really important. Make sure your contact info, and I would really hope everyone's updating right now. LinkedIn loves little incremental updates. So I recommend that while you're adding all these people that are in the chat on LinkedIn, you also do little updates while we're talking so you don't forget. You can also come back and watch the video, but that doesn't sound as much fun as just getting things done while you can. It's the opposite of your CV or resume. People get very precious about that and don't want to update it. So instead, one of the first things I would recommend everybody to do is check out your contact info right now and what's public. Please, please, please do not have your birth date public. That is a blatant security issue. Is a blatant login information. I don't even have the same email address that's public on my LinkedIn. It's not my LinkedIn login. It really shouldn't be. I have like, you know, burner emails just for logging into social media. You can tell I'm the tech storyteller. Is that website that's listed in your contact info really up to date all the time? Does it need to be there? I do recommend that you have, at least for connections, a public email address, because sometimes people are weird and that's the only way they want to connect with you. And then this is a do what I say, but not I can't do it because of different logistical issues. Verify your profile, especially if you are from If your pronouns are they, them, I strongly recommend doing this because I've had friends that every time they get posted, get their LinkedIn whole profile taken down. If you come from a minoritized background, you are also more likely to be gaslit and doxxed and attacked and reported for no reason on LinkedIn. So by verifying your profile with your passport, or maybe in the US, you can use a driver's license. I don't know the system for the US one. It allows you to verify you are that person much more quickly and get your LinkedIn profile back up sooner. So this is very interesting. Someone asked, is it possible to verify your profile if your first name is not the same as listed on your ID? My LinkedIn name is Debbie and my legal name on my documents is Deborah. I hope that was okay to read that out loud, Debbie. Sorry. Didn't read your full name, so hopefully it's quite a common name. I hope. I'm not sure, but I would definitely try it. You can go ahead and go through the process to see if you can. Like I said, it's a weird situation where my phone is 15 years living in Europe, is stuck in a US app store. So I actually can't go through the verification process because I'm physically in Europe. It's a mess. I've been talking to the team at LinkedIn. So this is where I'm saying, but hopefully other people have advice, but I assume this happens very often. And specifically my non-binary friends who have had these issues and they have been able to verify their profile, their name is not what's on their passport. So maybe it is different in the US versus Europe. So probably you can verify and then update your name back on LinkedIn would be my guess, but that is a really good question. And what I can do is ask my friends at LinkedIn after we got off the call and let know in, I guess, a Facebook post would be the easiest to do this. Where do you indicate that you want to verify? Typically it just shows up. I find it's constant, my reminders that I should verify my LinkedIn. It should tell you in your profile, but otherwise I find Googling is better to look for answers than actually look on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, for whatever reason, their results are not as Googleable. But yeah, verification from different countries can be assisted with VPNs. That's probably true. I write about tech. I'm not the most technical, but it looks like some people are finding the verification. Hopefully you don't get hacked or whatever and your profile doesn't come down, but it does make it easier to get it up. And I would think it's going to be increasingly important. Is there a reason why LinkedIn profiles are taken down? What are the causes? One is racism and homophobia, etc. Yeah, like people are getting attacked because they are, like, specifically my friends with they, them pronouns on LinkedIn. And I do recommend you add your pronouns on LinkedIn. I think that's just a kind thing to do, are getting attacked. So moving on from that, there's different things you can add. You can add open to. So I somehow have offering services, finding a new job, hiring, but when I looked back, that wasn't even an option. So they've changed the open to since the last time I updated the slide. So I added this, but if you're hiring people, it's one of those things. Update your profile headline or your profile image, your headshot. That's a question. Okay, so next let's talk about your summary. So this is really important for your SEO on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of questions about verify, and you should be able to verify it for freelancer, but again, it's just verifying your identity. I'm not an expert on it, but if you are, especially in a minoritized group, it's when I would specifically promote it to secure yourself. I'm sorry, I can't provide any more information on that. So I look at 4 sections on your LinkedIn, which you do in order, not in order, but a different order depending on what you're going for. So it's about 2,000 characters, may change, evolve that. It's who you are professionally. If you do any volunteering, volunteering has a lot of weight on LinkedIn. 3 words to describe yourself, 3 phrases, sell your passion. What you do, what problem do you solve, your unique value proposition, any spectacular achievements or milestones, especially if you're a woman, you need numbers behind your stuff. That's just the world we live in. If you're allowed to, of course, numbers vary and page views tend to be proprietary information of clients. What are you looking for? Clients, a job, business partners, funding, advice. So these are 3 different things. You want to lead with what is the thing you want to do. And that should be your first 2 lines, because no one's going to read any more than that. If they're not interested, they're not going to hit the more to view beyond your first 2 to 3 lines, depending on what device they're on. So if you are looking for a job or work in some way, always be very specific about the type of company you want to work for, if you want to work remote, if you're willing to move, or where you're willing to work in those first 2 lines. If you're just looking for more sources around a topic, make that your opening sentence. If you're not really looking for anything and you're using this like your Rolodex, then introduce yourself. Say you're looking to connect with fellow people. This is the thing that should kind of encourage people to want to work with you. So if you want to be perceived as funny, be funny. If you have quotes or testimonials, add them, things like that. And then there's the 4th section, which I say always goes last. The part no one reads, but is so important for SEO. This is a list of bullets. So you can't do bullets natively in LinkedIn. So you can either do hyphen space. Remember that space, because that space is important, because you can't have the punctuation up against a hyphen. Or you can copy paste bullets from another source sometimes, things like that. You can play around with stuff. But you have X number of years experience in, and then you are repetitive, like quite repetitive throughout, because you want to rank for these different words. So I'm trying to move the Zoom stuff out of the way. So for example, on mine, I have my top skills, which is something I don't think is in a slide, but is something that you can emphasize throughout. But I have check marks right now instead of bullets, because again, it doesn't like bullets, but I have feature writing, comma, tech journalism, comma, B2B blogging. New check mark or new bullet is B2B tech marketing, contact marketing, digital marketing. Later on, I do have SEO space search engine optimization. Know that sometimes, even as a freelancer, you will be recruited from an HR person who doesn't know what you do. So you need to make sure that you're ranking for all those numbers. Okay, someone said some people I'm trying to connect with do not have the connect button. Is there a reason? I got a slide for that. So I'm going to jump down to that. So LinkedIn is trying to get you to pay. Go into more, or it may be a ... today. It changes all the time, and you should have a button to connect. If it's just LinkedIn trying to get you to pay for an email, you can get around it. If any of my friends that work at LinkedIn are on here, sorry, but you know I do this. So you know I mentor people on their LinkedIn. Sorry about that. So that's, by the way, Bill Gates is one of those situations where you cannot. Justin, maybe because I did address him as Justin in the note back when you could have notes on LinkedIn for free. He has not accepted me. Bill Gates, this is kind of fake. Bill Gates is under what I would say the 5% of women and almost 0% of men besides Bill Gates, where they require an email address. So you need to have Bill Gates, whatever his email address he requires for his LinkedIn to connect with him. But the vast majority of people, it's because they're trying to do it. Also, if you would do on your LinkedIn instead on your phone, usually you just have this or this. So you want this. If this shows up, you have to click into the profile. If you're on your phone, because you could be on your phone right now, you could be on your lunch right now, or breakfast, or whatever it is, or a walk while you're not at work. You need to click in the name and then go and click the drop down like we talked about here. So there are ways around it. It's just LinkedIn trying to get you to pay for premium, and that's fine. We don't have to though. Hopefully not, because also we'll get the free journalism one. So yes, I think we kind of understand. If anyone has any questions, anything else, just jump in. But with the summaries, the keywords heavily. Then we get to work experience, which is very similar. The idea is multiple job titles. I always say if you've worked at like a McDonald's or served in the military or Walmart or one of the other massive employers in the world, add it on here. It'll probably be down far enough that people won't see. Let's see. And then that you know, then you're secondarily connected to some of the biggest employers in the world. It's not a bad thing. Also make sure that, and this may have changed in the time you've joined LinkedIn, but go back and see if you can like hit edit and just do a drop down select of an official employer, because up until about 5 years ago, a lot of companies that were relatively small were not on LinkedIn. They are now, so it just looks less messy. We have a note in the chat that says, I've messaged potential interview sources through the Connect Plus, add a message and writing a note explaining the story I'm working on and why I want to interview them. You can do that, but that costs money. So you either have to have the premium or the premium from the journalism free, but you only get like now 2 a month or something if you don't have free. You can buy Cat Pass it in some cases. That's great. You can also connect with them and wait and then send them an invitation and then send them a note, only because if they're gonna respond, it's gonna be pretty quick. If they're going to respond at all, they're going to accept you pretty quickly. So you can just check them off if they're not active. Can you please explain the tier of connections? What's the advantage of being a secondary connection or a third or fourth? Well, the most advantage is definitely being a primary. You want to be connected to people. But when you're secondary, you are less likely to have an issue of having to go through the ... to connect. You're much more likely to be able to connect with people more easily. That could even be in the same group as them. And again, turn all those notifications off. You just need to be in the group. Someone said, what if you worked for the same name brand places, but it was decades ago? You have to list dates of working, and indicating some of them could open you up to ageism. That is a problem. So you could change the dates if you wanted to, but also first, I always say with your education, you don't need to have years, so I wouldn't add the years. If you are afraid of ageism. And there's also the idea of, am I allowed to cuss here? I didn't ask this ahead. If people are going to be a-holes, you probably don't want to work for them anyway. So in a writing field, it's sad that that would be the case. But if that's the case, you probably don't want to work with those people. Yeah, Tina, I should have asked you ahead about cussing, because I tend to cuss on live streams. So that's when you asked me about this. So back to this idea of your work experience, I think you could probably fudge the dates. I don't think it's that important. But it may lead to more unusual suggestions of who you can connect with by LinkedIn algorithm, because they're going to think you knew the people, you're more likely to know people from that time frame. So that's the only thing that could be potentially a negative. But honestly, if people are going to be ageist, I don't know if you want to work for them, but it's also a different market than it was a year ago. So do whatever you got to do to get work right now, I say. Add all possible job titles for each role. For one company, you can kind of like stagger them in with a company. Even if you've left that company and come back, you can kind of organize it that way. Add any proof you can. Here is a great way to add links to your author profiles, other specific articles. I would also feature articles you're really proud of. Feature gets a lot more views. So if you feature it right away, you're going to get a lot more views. You can always unfeature stuff later. If you remember, I often forget to update the featured articles, but there will be certain things or featured posts. For each job position, describe key responsibilities, mention a problem you faced, positive action you took, numerical goals, numbers, whenever, saved money, increased productivity, increased revenue, keep things short. Please don't do a paragraph. No one, and also in your CV or LinkedIn or resume, keep things short with bullets, the number of people managed. Again, if you are a woman, you need this more than a man. That's just statistically true. This is a big one. This is the hardest thing of your LinkedIn profile. Why? Because it involves other people. So, sorry. You know the people who you want recommendations from. Oh, well, you can't. Someone said, I thought you said no bullets. You can do fake bullets. You can copy paste bullets from somewhere else. You can do things. You physically cannot do bullets within the LinkedIn platform, but you can copy paste bullets from somewhere else or do a hyphen space or whatever, as long as you do the spacing correctly. There was a clarification in the chat. Okay, so the statistic is allegedly, if you have 10 recommendations, no one's going to check your recommendations. I think any good employer or anything else will check your recommendations at some point, but they're great because when you have a recommendation, they're there forever. You can use that as testimonial for a website or add it as I have in my summary. There's many ways to use a testimonial once it's public like that. So you definitely want it, but again, it's reliant on other people. And while I talk about this, someone asked to show slide 19 again. So go for it to screenshot. And yeah, so recommendations, you know, the people who, they're especially university professors who will want to write those recommendations. But if you've got other people that you know are going to be really annoying, guide them, tell them what you want to include. Especially like I do a lot of fractional CMO work where I work with a company like 6 to 9 months part-time before they hire their full-time chief marketing officer. And I do that work, and usually they're founders of a company. They don't pay attention to that much stuff. They just know what's coming in. So I provide them with, before, as part of my offboarding, these are the percentage growth that this happened and this happened and this happened. Please add this in a resume, in a review or a recommendation. So that's a really valuable thing to do. Add your keywords, be specific, add all your education and certificates. Since Microsoft owns all these things, if you pay for Coursera, which is not that expensive, and you're statistically dramatically more likely to complete the course, because I think only 3% of people that do the freemium version complete it. That was a statistic from a couple years ago. It's probably worse now, more busier. It shows up on your LinkedIn as having it done, and then you are also secondarily connected to all those people. So that is, you being secondary connected means you're more likely to show up in the results. Tertiary, it doesn't even tell you if you're more than third of way, because it really is about second and first connections to show up in the circumstance. So add keywords too, just to review. Your new headline, anything, so again, anything LinkedIn has done for you, don't. Your summary, your job titles, your job descriptions, projects you've linked to. This is a good way to get some sneaky extra keywords in, because no one's reading the description of any links you've added as a project, or just links added to anything, like besides your posts up top that are highlighted. If you're adding links to a job, it doesn't. No one's going to see that, so you can add it. And your skills and endorsements. Okay. So this changes all the time. First things first, you really want to curate this, because again, all in my Microsoft, a lot of people have ranking that they are good at Microsoft Office. And there are very few people on this call that want to be, you know, ranking for being good at Microsoft Office. Also, at this point, I would hope you are. So this idea is you want to curate your skills, and then you also want to get people to thumbs up them or endorse or whatever they are. It changes all the time, because this has a strong ranking on it. And then you also have the option, these are typically technical roles. There are certain things that kind of are gray area in here, like SEO, where you can take a LinkedIn assessment. Let me tell you a trick for that, how to game that system. Do it on your phone. It's 10 questions. You have 2 times, last I checked. Again, things change a lot on the LinkedIn algorithm. You have 2 chances. Oh, look at that. I made balloons with my peace sign. So you have 2 chances to pass the test. If you are unsure of a question, take a screenshot of that question so you can look up the answer before you take it again. Just a little trick from me to you. These are useful if you are writing in some sort of technical space, etc. Never keep anything LinkedIn auto-generates your headline, your job titles, again, plural, your skills. I've read the statistic, and this has been consistent for over 10 years. 1 in 5 hires made from LinkedIn are from volunteer experience alone. So if you work, but again, if you like, it was 20 years ago, please remove that from your LinkedIn. Fill in other fields. An interesting field that I don't fully understand how to do it, or I didn't understand until recently, until I wrote my latest ebook. There's a publication section. So if you have academic research, or you've published a book, an ebook, a guide, something like that, it looks good. You can see the example of my profile. It just looks better than most. Fill in other fields if you have foreign languages. That's a wildly important skill. For Americans targeting American audience, bilingual may mean to everyone Spanish, English, but it doesn't mean anything to anyone else in the world. It just means you speak 2 languages, so add the languages you speak. This changes all the time. If you are able to create a vanity URL, this is one of those situations. It's much better to Google how to create a LinkedIn vanity URL, but that's like mine is LinkedIn/in/JK Riggins. It just looks less messy. Then there's probably 6 random numbers behind your thing, behind your name. Add it everywhere. Anywhere you're looking, add it to your signature everywhere, so people can just connect with you. If you have less than 500 connections, it looks weird. It's just a whole thing. I would say go way beyond that, but you need to hit 500 connections. We've talked about how. So I do this on my phone while watching TV, and I do it kind of across the week, because if I go too many in one day, it may give me kind of a warning like, hey, you're growing your network. Maybe you want to follow people instead. So that's kind of a warning that if I add too many in one day, it may block me before I hit 100. I've also heard rumors it's going higher and people are getting more. I've never done the math. But if you make like 20 a day, again, you want to, following people does nothing. Following people is a one-sided thing. You can see their posts. If you connect with people, you are connected with them. That means you can DM, they can see your posts. And specifically, LinkedIn has a recency bias that anyone you've connected with in the last 2 weeks will see all of your posts. And that's good, because that's a good way to soft sell. So they see your work and they may be like, oh, I need that too. I'm seeing that a lot lately for me in the developer productivity space, because that is a niche I'm an expert in, but they wouldn't know necessarily, maybe if they Googled, but it's good to have multiple places where they see, oh, you write for a lot of different sites. That's interesting. We've already discussed this, and it's going to try to tell you not to. Try anyway. Join 50 groups. Just make sure as soon as you join them, please review, show slides one by one so we can catch them all, because you go fast. Everything I'm saying is we're very limited on time, but thank you very much for that. I can share with you the slides afterwards in a PDF form if you would like, Karen, if I can do that as well when you send out the recording.
Yeah, that's
But
And this
also,
will be recorded, so if people need to go back, this way I don't want to make you have to keep going back and showing slides that you already did, so.
yeah, also, I probably should have said from the start, I aim for inclusion as much as possible, so there is nothing on slides that I can think of besides perhaps the example of how to get around the, you don't have the connect button immediately, which it's quite difficult to describe. I try to make it so you could go for a walk, or if you could not see, etc., you don't need the slides. That's why a lot of them, if you're not seeing the site, it has pretty silly pictures, but they're not important. So I would join 50 groups, because then you're more likely to be able to connect with people. It's harder to connect with someone that you're tertiarily connected with. If you're 4 degrees away, it would be often difficult completely to connect with someone. But if they're in the same group as you, or you see they're in a group, you scroll down to their interests at the bottom of their profile, you then can join in the same group as they are. And then you're secondarily connected to them and more likely to then be able to, meet with them. Groups, I think they're less and less relevant, but there are some monster groups. So you can join some target geography groups or really specific groups that may provide you with actual value. So I do recommend that. But honestly, join the groups where your customers are, and then join like the mega groups. Like you'll see among my my own interest, there's a social media, blah, 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 marketing, blah, 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 blah. And there's another one that's like SaaS, cybersecurity, blah, 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 blah. Both of them are over 2 million people. That's a good amount. 2 million people means you're secondarily connected to 2 million, which means you're tertiarily connected to at least 4 million. Who knows? Probably far more than that. I'm in writing because I'm not good at math. Also, the idea is you may want to go locally if you want to create a local group to connect with people if you live in like a small town, etc. Go where you think people can give you work are. The number 1 group in Spain is looking for and offering jobs. In Spain, guess what? People aren't really offering jobs in there. They're just looking for them. So go for big groups, or like we said, super niche or locational. Stalk your dream clients, join the groups they're in. You see theirs, they may see yours. Comment on their posts is another way to get engagement with them, and it also boosts the algorithm. Liking their posts, we'll talk about that type of engagement is really important. There is a question, is there a way to change the order of your projects on your profile? If you mean the publications, that I believe is only done in order. Awards as well in order, like chronological order. Your most recent is up top. If you're talking about featured at the top, I believe it's only in order you last posted, but maybe play around with unfeaturing an older one and featuring again. Maybe it'll show up. I'm not sure. I've not tried that. Attend an event, add everyone on LinkedIn. Does everyone know this? Okay. So going on your LinkedIn, covering up because of GDPR, trying to hover at people, hit the search button, and then you have a funky little thing there. That becomes, you hit that, anyone can scan your profile, or you can scan them. It doesn't usually show my face because it would show someone else's QR code, but that was an experiment to do live. The idea is that, just to know, it doesn't give you like a vibration or anything, it just automatically goes to the profile, but then you have to remember to actually connect to the people. I love in-person meetups as well. So share often. This should be turned off now automatically, but just if it is. So the LinkedIn algorithm has a bias for different posts. So you should at least post twice a week, I would say. If you post more than 14 every 14 days, it automatically, you get a decrease in how it shows. Sorry. So I would suggest trying to post every weekday, but not more than once a weekday, because it likes 24 hours. And if you manage a business profile, you also won't even be able to notify other employees. You take advantage of that If you hit the ... on post on a business profile, you can notify employees, but that's every 24 hours. The algorithm likes about 24 hours, but at least every day. So maybe a couple hours difference for you as an individual. I would say schedule one update a weekday or weekend as well to stay up on top of minds, your relevant work, thought leadership. This is in the wrong spot. I just want to say that I'll move that up for later. Before I send this, this is a newish thing that shows up on LinkedIn. This is creator mode. You can add your hashtags, use the most common that there are, start typing, it'll come down and you can tag them. Hashtags in general seem to be less important on LinkedIn because it's not searching them. I do find it a valuable way. You do rank if people are searching for that hashtag, but it's not showing you what the most popular ones are, but it does in this format when you go turn on creator mode, and then you can add up to 5 hashtags, which is interesting for people to find you. Posts. I love LinkedIn posts. Okay. Just like with your summary, imagine only the first 2 to 3 lines will be read. Use 4 to 9 hashtags. Camel tag is if you have more than one word. Anything LinkedIn does automatically is not accessible like this, but so you have to type it in. So if I do developer productivity, I do a capital D developer, then a capital P for productivity. It is an accessibility thing. If you work anything in the fields from app development all the way to mental health in your topic that you write about, I think it is important, and it's important to just help. Add as many, you're allowed to add up to 50 people on a post. Add the relevant people. I always add my editors so they know I'm sharing and that they interact with it. I always add all sources, anything like that. Just add all information that's possible. Avoid external links. So, but we're journalists and our articles are online and we want to drive traffic. So this is basically impossible. If you are publishing an article every day, screw that, publish all your articles. If you're not, filter through text only. By the way, if some people are thinking about screenshot and this is the one to screenshot, I would say the next ones are the ones to screenshot. If you don't have to, it loves text only. I mean, let's see the statistic on one of the ones I did last week, which I'm sure will resonate with a lot of people in this group. And it was kind of an impulsive one for me to write, but actually someone I was looking to hire said, I charge this, but so I posted a week ago, my fellow women, just a reminder, please do not offer a lower price in the same breath as you offer the first one. I habitually hear, quote, I usually charge X, but please don't do that. Nobody asked you yet. This is like our apologizing disease. You don't need to say you're sorry nearly as much, and you don't need to preemptively drop your price. Trust me, you're right more than you think and are likely charging too little as is. That doesn't actually make sense. See, proofread your posts. You can now edit them. Just a reminder, you were awesome a lot. That got 13,000 impressions. That took 5 minutes of rage and frustration. Those do well. There are no hashtags in that. That is text only. That takes no design work. So Canva is your best friend if you want to create a media post. Go ahead, because you don't need to be a designer. So someone posted, the problem is when you tag people and they don't engage, the number of impressions drops. Let people know that you tagged them. I think that's a good way to get involved. Then this is very important. LinkedIn loves, there's 2 signals when you have a post. The most important signals are a comment and a share. Which is annoying because our natural thing is that we're going to like something first. Don't do that. That's not helpful because that is a much lower signal to it. So ask people that maybe you've interviewed, please comment at least 12 words before you like this post, or at least share it with a note, share with thoughts of at least 12 words. I know that seems specific, but we'll see the people I trust. I'll share later. some of their posts and you can screenshot that. The first hour is golden. It's the first hour and then the first 90 minutes and then the first like 12 hours in the first day. But the first hour really matters if you have interaction on your post, which is sharing or especially comments. But when you get that comment, respond right away, again, with 12 more words. You having a conversation, everything that LinkedIn does is about increasing your time on page. And that's why they, a couple years ago, decreased the value of an external link, but our job is often to share those external links. So the question is, what's the best time to post? Where's the majority of your connections located? And in that time zone between 7 to 9 a.m. on Monday through Thursday. Because I just find traffic to any blog on a Friday, it's not good. But also, as soon as your article posts, and if you have where the majority of your connections are, that would be interested in that is the best time to post.
Jennifer, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've only got about like 4 minutes left. So I don't know. This has been super interesting. Thank you. I wonder, are there like some final messages or things you didn't get to yet that you'd like to leave us with?
That's okay. Yeah, I've been keeping track on the time, but yeah. So supposedly this doesn't matter anymore. But I still don't trust it unless you wrote something egregious, wait 10 minutes to edit it. Selfies, I don't understand how the algorithm works, but take selfie pics and videos do extremely well. Maybe it's just people like. So post as much as you can. If you have something important, make sure you tell people when you post, like your friends even, like, hey, can you make a comment on this? Can you share this? This is important. Please take screenshots of this. This is from the last LinkedIn report I've seen. Why 10 minutes? I don't know. The algorithm used to punish people. Supposedly, according to this person, who is very good, so take screenshots, the punishment's gone. For editing in the first 10 minutes, I just feel very questioning of it, but it really does drop your algorithm bonus. If you do that, just take screenshots. Most of this is discussed. They say also to create a personal hashtag. I think if you have a column, that's a great idea. I have hashtag TechWorks. Personal content is really good. If you have a dog or a cat, definitely post pictures of it. Things that are fun or interesting. I had a really successful post. I made a piñata, which by the way was wildly unsuccessful as a piñata, but as a reason to remind people, it's a weird time because schools in London at least were closed the last 2 weeks before this one. Like, these posts are personal and get vibes. I don't personally believe you should be posting your children's faces online on a social medium that's as less in your control as LinkedIn, but I know people that if you work in that space and you're very open as a parent, that may be actually really appropriate for you to do, and that's fine. Part of your story is that keep screenshotting these posts because we're out of time, and ask any last minute questions, but yeah, you want to connect with as many people as possible because it increases your talk. So I hope that everyone's taken advantage to connect with me. I see I have 21 notifications on LinkedIn. So like about like a 30 y'all decided to connect with me. That's fine. It's your choice. I couldn't connect with you because there wasn't enough time. But this is a new thing. This is the last thing. I don't do this, but I should probably experiment with it. I think I will experiment with this. This is someone to follow. You can connect with him if he has enough connections left. If you hit 30,000, usually you can't have more connections. This is a good problem to have. Very few people on this call will have this problem. He may, but definitely you can follow him. The last 3 slides are from Richard van der Moon. And this is this idea that you have standard information that you add at the end of every post that says, this is what I talk about. This is what I'm good at. Please ring the bell on my profile to get more. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all very much for joining. We will also share the slides ahead, and you can always, another reason to join and connect with me is to, ask more questions. It's not a bad idea. And I think also, Karen, because I have to go pick up my kid right now because my partner is sicker than me now. But if you can start a thread on the Facebook group,
Okay, sure.
if you don't mind, I would really appreciate that. So if people have more questions, we can continue the conversation. Thank you all so
Yeah,
much.
perfect. Thank you, Jennifer, for your time, and to everyone for tuning in. If you joined us late, a recording will be made available, and Jennifer also agreed to share her slides for her message. We'll also start a thread on the Facebook group. And please join us for our next session, which is May 16th, about balancing freelance work while you're working as a full-time employee. Thanks again. Have a good day.
Because your byline is golden.